And first up is going to be Celine Holbrook with the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration and MSTAR Law Project. Give it up.
Good evening. Good evening, Captain. My name is Veronica Rex. I'm not running for anything, but I'm here to build power. Before I ask you this question, I'm going to ask you a question concerning plea agreements, but I'd like to share a story about one of our clients. First of all, I'm with the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration, and we are an advocacy group seeking to end life without parole sentences in Pennsylvania, and we're also seeking progressive criminal justice reform in Pennsylvania, and I'm also with the MSTAR Law Project. So I'm going to ask you a question about plea agreements, but first I'm going to talk to you about one of our friends who was also a client. In his case, he has served 19 years on first-degree murder conviction. He had accepted responsibility for his defense. He had apologized to the victim's family. He struck up a strong relationship with one of the friends, with the victim's son, who forgave him and came and testified at his resentencing hearing. He did everything that was humanly possible to right the wrong that he did, the trespass that he did in taking another human's life. Our defense team and the prosecution have reached an agreement of time served, 19 years to life, and this was based on the circumstances of the case, his remorse, accepting responsibility, and also the victim, one of the members of the victim's family, forgiving him. When we went into court, the judge denied the plea, said she didn't agree. She wanted more time on it. And so subsequently, instead of serving 19 years and being home right now, she sentenced him to 25 to life, so he has to serve an additional 6 years. So my question to you is, and this is just a yes or no answer, I believe that too few years of incarceration served is one of the main factors that I would consider in determining whether to reject a negotiated deal between the defense and prosecution.
Sorry, I did not hear that.
I believe that too few years of incarceration served is one of the main factors that I would consider in determining whether to reject a negotiated deal between the defense and prosecution. Thank you. Did you understand the question? So let me rephrase the question. Essentially, do you believe that if the prosecution and the defense reaches an agreement in a case, and that person may have served amount of years that would be considered too few, would you believe that? Would you not accept that plea? So would you feel as though, well, I want to sentence him to more time, when the prosecution and the defense have reached an agreement based on his responsibility, his acceptance and remorse? So does everyone understand that question now? It's just yes or no. I apologize for the wording of the question, maybe. However, it is, do you feel as though the defense and the prosecution have made a deal and feel as though the time that the person served is adequate for his offense, his acceptance of responsibility, would you kill that deal because you feel as though he or she needs to serve more time? I think that's as clear cut and as explicit as I can give it. And I'm in the courtroom, it's black and white, it's straight. In any scenario. So we're not going to take any more questions. Any scenario.
Did y'all want those answers up high, please? That folks can see it. Thank y'all so much. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're clear, everyone. This is the yes or no segment of this program. So right here and now, you're just saying yes or no. You will have an opportunity to explain yourself in the open-ended questions. But for this part, it's just yes or no. If we need to clarify the question, then just give us a little signal that you need to clarify the question. We good? Where?
For the candidates in the front row, could you hold the signs above your head so that we can see what you're saying?
Well, so we're going to keep this thing moving right along, and again, I want everyone to be thinking about, you're the one who's going to go to these polls. You're the one who's going to make these decisions. So everything. We are judging the judges today. This is probably the only time that you're going to get to judge a judge. So make sure you use this opportunity. So the next person we have coming up is from Make the Road, PA, Mahatma Kamara. And they're going to talk a little bit about implicit bias.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, individuals. My name is Mahatma Kamara. Y'all can hear me? Yes. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mahatma Kamara, and I'm here tonight with Make the Road, Pennsylvania. As someone who's been incarcerated, I witnessed countless of times the disparity in sentencing between white defendants and black or Latino defendants. Black Latino defendants are getting between 30 to 60 years life sentences, while white defendants with similar crime and similar criminal jackets are getting 1 to 2 years or boot camp or access to some type of reform program more readily available to the white community as opposed to the black and brown. I don't need statistics to prove it, though there is countless statistics behind it. I lived this witnesses firsthand. This leads to my question to you all, and I ask that the audience pay special attention who actually answer this question. The question is, do you believe that we live in a system of white supremacy that disproportionately disparages black and brown defendants in the court system? I'm going to repeat the question. The question is, do you believe that we live in a system of white supremacy that disproportionately disparages black and brown defendants in the court systems?
Thank you so much for that. Thank y'all for your answers too. We're going to keep the ball rolling. The next person we're going to bring up is Bobby Harris, who is a representative of Reclaim, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, as well as want to talk about incarceration. Give it up for Bobby.
How you doing? Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, potential judge candidates. My name is Bobby Harris. I'm going to leave that like that. And there's not much to explain about me other than that I was a juvenile life sentenced to die. But I want to stress something when I have my question. That sister that spoke, that's what's reflected inside our community. So when you speak about what my life consists of, it consists of expressions that you heard from that sister. Pain, suffering, and death because of injustice striking us every day in our communities. And I close on this part to give you my question. There's 47 zip codes in the city of Philadelphia, and 11 of them makes up nearly 90% of the county population. They black and brown. Y'all about to judge individuals that looks like me and my sisters. Be mindful of that. Here's my question, and I want your answer. You want to provide this a little bit. Do you believe that the current system of incarceration serves its purpose, particularly to black and brown people in the city of Philadelphia? Do you believe that the current incarceration serves its purpose when it comes to black and brown men and women in the city of Philadelphia. I hope y'all ready to go with me. I'm about to
Ooh, I seen the yes up there. I seen the yes up there. Yeah. So again, these are things that we want to be thinking about. We have some folks that's going to be speaking on some of the things, some of the organizing that has been done to try to, have some preventive maintenance, so that folks are aware of the court proceedings, so that we don't get caught up in the system. A lot of it is that we don't know our own rights. And so we get into that courtroom and they railroad us in ways that we were not prepared for, right? And especially if you don't have your own lawyer or can't afford a lawyer, right? All right. Which brings me to my next point. And the next brother I'm going to bring up here is Akeem Sims. And he's going to talk a little bit about, he's representing Reclaim Philadelphia and the Participatory Defense Hub. And he's going to talk a little bit about pretrial detention. Give it up for Akeem.
Good evening, community members and judicial candidates. My name is Akeem Sims. I am a community organizer for the Mass Liberation Campaign. And I take a lot of pride in that. What that is our response to mass incarceration or over incarceration of black and brown bodies. Mass liberation for me means the mass involvement of people who've been impacted, the people who are leading here tonight. So as Bobby said, I want you guys to be mindful of the people that you're judging. I myself was a victim of the cash money bail scheme. I was at my friend's house and they had it under surveillance. And when I left, they arrested me. I had 20 packets of cocaine on me, right? And $1,000 in cash. They held me on a $100,000 bail. Do you think my charges were warrant a $100,000 bail? I don't think so. It was a ploy to get me to rat on my friend. And when I didn't, they held me in their cell. Held me on bail for $100,000 for 4.5 weeks. I lost my job. So you gotta think about what's happening when you do put people in that situation. They come home and they don't have any resources. So what do you think I did when I came home? Went right back to selling coke. I'm not gonna hope. I'm selling coke. Y'all help me? I lost the job that I had, 401k. All that good stuff, out the door. So it's the blatant misuse and manipulation of the bail system to keep us in jail. And it's inappropriate. So at these bail hearings, where they're on TV now, which is outrageous and ludicrous to me, but if we don't say nothing, they'll continue to railroad us and do whatever they want to do in the courts. So show up at the courts. It's not anything for public. That's what participatory defense is about. Community in the courts. That's what it's about. So my question is, do you believe that our current judicial system holds people pre-trial detained inappropriately? Inappropriately, Miss You. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to keep this party rolling. We're going to make sure that everybody is able to witness some of this that's happening. This is history. Y'all should take your phones out. Y'all should live stream this thing. Y'all should, text your mama, tag your cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, get everybody to pay attention to this because we have to start speaking up. And we want to talk about this over sentencing and this overcharging and all of this stuff. It's about making sure that we are standing up. It's about making sure that we are informed. The information is out there, y'all. And just shout out to Jack real quick. Let's just give it up for Jack real quick for putting this together. Give it up, give it up. And so, real briefly, I want to talk about the organizations that have been a part of this coalition. We have Reclaim Philadelphia, Project Safe, Philadelphia DSA and LILAC. We got 215 People's Alliance, Philadelphia Community Bail Fund, Youth Art and Self-Empowerment. We got Project, we got the Amistad Law Project, we got the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration, we got the Center for Carceral Communities, we got ICE Out of Courts, we got the Pennsylvania Student Power Network, we got Make the Road Pennsylvania. We got Decarcerate PA, and we got Black Lives Matter Philadelphia. So I just wanted y'all to be aware of the organizations that came together and worked tirelessly to put this program together. Without further ado, we're going to bring up our next speaker, and that person is going to talk about bail. Let's give it up for Miss Veronica Rex, y'all. Miss Veronica Rex.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Veronica Rex. I'm 53 years old. I'm a mother of 4, a grandmother of 14, and I have 1 great-granddaughter. I had the experience of being incarcerated for the first time in November 2018. I spent 90 days on state road due to having a $50,000 bail, which my family could not afford. I was removed from my family, and during this time, I missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, and bringing in the New Year. The New Year with my family. I missed grandchildren being born, as well as I was taken from my daughter that was murdered in 2009, 2 sons, which I have joint custody of. Time can never be replaced. Special moments can never be rewind. I would like to know, do you think that placing outrageous bails make our communities more safer? Thank you.
I do want us to keep in mind that we are asking about your personal opinions. I just want to put that out there. We're asking about your personal opinion. This is not a commitment, but it is a testament of who you actually are. So yeah, now it brings us to our next part of this event. How y'all feeling? How's the energy? You feel like I gave real answers here, or what? No? I heard a no. I heard a no. Well, that means that we gotta dig in a little bit deeper, which brings us to the next part. We're gonna ask some open-ended questions. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to speak. That's it. Okay? So don't feel funny if I take the mic. All right, good. Good. All right, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So when I ask these open-ended questions, I'm going to bring the microphone to you. Again, 2 minutes. The question is, what can the courts do to heal the harms caused to our communities by the criminal justice system? Again, that's what can the courts do to heal the harm caused to our communities by the criminal justice system?
I'm Henry Sias. In the courts, I've seen that too often the experiences of the repeat players, so the assigned ADA in the room, the assigned PD in the room, the judge, their experiences are centered rather than centering the experiences and needs of the people who are most vulnerable in that moment and for whom this is the biggest deal maybe in their entire life. So that's one of the things that has to happen in order to start healing in the courts. It's essential that judges create and maintain a truly democratic space in which people can confront the government with the actual lived realities of their experience. That's a democratic court system, and it takes strong judges who are willing to put themselves out there in order to make that happen.
Good evening, folks. My name's Kendra McCrae. Vote for McCrae. I believe that there are so many hurts that have been experienced by people, black, brown, different ages. I worked as a prosecutor for 14 years, criminal defense attorney for 3. I was born and raised in this city. That we need to become transparent. A lot of times the individual is hustled through the system. They're told that you should plead guilty. They're shoved in front of their faces as a written guilty plea form that's 4-sided. They're not told what the consequence of that felony offense is, that it's going to affect your right to employment, your right to vote, that it's going to affect your ability to bring in income and any educational opportunities. So I believe that we need to educate the people that come through the system. That is one way of getting a healing process in effect.
If you want to heal people, you need to give them a chance when they get out. And there's not enough focus done on re-entry to help people successfully get back to work, get back to housing. The courts could partner with organizations. The Housing Authority, I work there, and I'm proud and ashamed to say at the same time. We have a program with the court so that people who are coming out of the system can have a chance to get back to their housing. When you let people out and you've already harmed them, they're going to go right back if you don't give them the tools they need. So we need to make sure that people have housing, that they can go back and they can be reunited with their families, and those are things you can do to fix the damage that's already done.
Hi guys, Nicola Siriani. So I think that part of it is that the courts isn't just going to be me. It's more. It's a whole community of people. I work in the civil side, but I do a host of pro bono work. And I've often seen my clients sometimes look deer in headlights. And that's because the first time that we're dealing with the court, big C, is this judge, and it's very scary. And I think that part of it needs to be that the first time that they go to court shouldn't be the trial, and they're going to see their guilt or enter a guilty plea or go to trial. I think that there should be intermediary steps. I think there should be information so that everybody knows what's going on. I think the judge has a responsibility to inform the people before them, as opposed to just being sort of the judge executioner, so to speak. I think that throughout the way, this is somebody's rights, and they should know them absolutely every step of the way, and it shouldn't be a deer in the headlight situation.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schultz, and I think approaching each person and understanding what got them to the moment that they're in front of you, and what can you do to help them get on a different path going forward. I was very fortunate to hear a judge speak who is practicing out in the counties, and a few years ago she started noticing an enormous increase in people coming in on offenses involving opioids, because where she was in a corridor that people would travel to come down into Philadelphia to buy their drugs, and they would get stopped on the way back, and then they would wind up in front of her. And these were people who were addicts, these were people who were struggling with what we understand is a health problem, and they didn't have good solutions. And so she figured out that instead of simply processing through her court, she wanted to make a difference. And she built a system so that when somebody comes in front of her who's struggling with addiction, she is able to get them a placement before they leave her courtroom that day. And it's taken a lot of work for her to do that. She's had to develop systems and networks so that she can pick up the phone and find a bed for people. She's had to develop community organizations to support that process. And she has created a foundation so that she can continue to build those systems and build that community. But what it took there was a judge who was willing to say, there is a problem and I'm going to try and find a solution. And that's what judges should be doing every day.
Justice isn't just about punishment. Justice is also about repairing harm and restoring communities. This is something I learned from a student who came before a series of public hearings that we held back in 2010 when I was chair of the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations. We were looking into intergroup conflicts that were affecting all of our students and our parents in the school district of Philadelphia. There was a student who came and called upon everybody in Philadelphia to implement restorative justice in our schools, and I feel the people who need restorative justice the most are the adults. We should not be afraid to know that the most difficult kind of accountability that we can require of ourselves is that if we harm somebody else, that we own that harm, that we acknowledge that. And being in a place where you can bring the entire community together and support both the people who suffer the harms and the people who inflict the harms. Because who can say that we have not always been both? So what I say is that we need to explore a system where we can have a criminal justice system that isn't just built on putting people in prisons. We should hold each other accountable and know how to bring people back together within our communities.
Hello, my name is Chris Hall. This is my wheelhouse. I was a federal prosecutor more than a decade, now criminal defense more than a decade. A federal judge just appointed me to represent an armed career criminal in federal court. We have a constitutional issue. I came as the 3 strikes you're outlaw, and there's some recent U.S. constitutional law that's relevant to that, and I think we're going to win. We're going to strike the 3 strikes. I stand for 3 things as judge: procedural justice, parsimony in sentencing, and reentry. Procedural justice doesn't cost a thing. It consists of basically 3 things: respect, an opportunity to be heard, and an explanation by the judge. Parsimony in sentencing, the second thing I stand for. Parsimony in sentencing is a federal concept that should be applied in a court of common pleas. It requires that a judge impose a sufficient but no more than necessary sentence to achieve the goals, which include rehabilitation. And third, my friend Judge Restrepo on the 3rd Circuit Court of Appeals, he is the champion of reentry. That's the 3rd thing I stand for. This organization is not fringe. I was here in February when Medusa Carter gave a rap poem that was marvelous and fantastic. I'm tipping my hat. I collected, friends and family helped me collect signatures. I collected personally about 1,500 signatures. Criminal justice issues are the #1 issue on everyone's mind. North Philly, South Philly, West Philly, Center City. When I was collecting signatures, this organization, the issues that matter to you, those are the issues that matter. So thank you for putting this together. Akeem, I think that ACLU case is going to win about bail, cash bail. I think they're going to win. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Hall. Thank you.
Good evening again. Janine Mamasso. Janine for Judge, Janine for Justice. For an ideas person like me, this is a death knell. I'm thinking, what one thing am I going to talk about that's crazy? I can think of 10 things I can talk about. Well, the one thing regarding healing our communities I chose to pick up on for this question was Philadelphia's wonderful, wonderful mechanism of horrific probation tales. Philadelphia, we have this way of you can be on probation longer than your actual sentence. I don't know how many people in here actually have a job. I know I do. But I couldn't keep my job if every week I had to leave to go check in with someone, to go take a test. I couldn't keep a job. But we're expecting people who are already coming out, they already have a record, and now we're pulling them from the ability of keeping a job that's worth keeping to support their families and to reunite a community. So I certainly am an advocate of reducing long probation tails if you already have one, or at the time comes for you to be sentenced, to make sure that whatever the incarceration, if that's a part of it that you're getting, that needs to be enough. Probation to me can be double jeopardy in a way. If you're in jail and you serve your time, for you to come out and for Philadelphia to use these resources in probation departments and the drug analysis clinics and whatnot, this is not money well spent. Do your time and let's do what we need to do to bring you back into the fold of our community. That is a productive use of our time and resources and a way to heal. Thank you so much, Janine, the judge. Woo!
Good evening, Leon Goodman. The way to improve or to have the courts fix some of the issues they've created is to create a situation where when individuals come out, they're coming out of the system better than when they came in. I come from the standpoint of the juvenile system, where I've spent over 20 years working both as a prosecutor and for almost the last decade as a defense attorney. And one thing about the juvenile system is when an individual comes in, when a child has made a mistake, they focus in totality. Education, if the child doesn't want to be in a situation where they go to college, we find a trade. Where we find something that that child wants to do so that when he finally graduates, he's in a better position. And I think the adult system should follow that same approach. I've seen some judges, not all, but a few, who now understand this. So using the probation system, not just as a punishment, but as a totality in terms of rehab. There's a lot of money in this system. So you know what, why not use it to help people get job training, get them into school, get them into programs that will allow them to be better off than when they first made the mistake, which brought them in there. Because an individual who has something to work on, to get up, to focus on, is not coming back. Simple mindset, fix the individual. Socioeconomic issues, get those repaired, you're not going to see them. And the system at that point will begin to make amends for all the damage that it has done over the years.
Good evening again, Gregory Wire. I don't mean to sidestep the question. My gut response when I heard the question was really without the help of the other legislatures, the other people on the ballot, not much. It has to be a team effort in society to really heal the harms of the criminal justice system. That's why I think all the work with expungements and pardons, commutation of sentences, really is going to do a whole lot to get us where we need to go as a society to make sure the criminal justice system is working for everybody. That said, I've been a criminal defense attorney in Philadelphia for 6.5 years now, and I have seen. I feel like the judges that do the most to heal society are the ones that are doing the most to create the least amount of harm. Because if you can prevent harm, you won't need as much healing. But the reality is no one goes to court when they're having a good day. And that's victims, that's defendants, that's plaintiffs. There's some kind of brokenness that happened that brings people to court. And I think the good judges sense that, and they learn as much as they can, and they try to act in a way that helps to address that harm. Helps to bring about some healing, helps to bring about closure, make sure everybody has their day in court, knows that the court heard what was happening and made the best decision possible with that information, gives sentences that are restorative and aren't punitive, and really gives every defendant a chance to actually implement whatever programs are around and be a part of a really, truly rehabilitative process since they're going forward. So it's probably a long-winded answer, but I think that the justice system plays a role, but it doesn't stop with just the justice system.
Pinto. I am an Olney girl. I grew on top of our family bar on the corner of Park and Olney called Tellups, and my family's had it for 60 years. And that experience has made me understand people. This is just about caring about people, getting back to having compassion for people. I work for myself as a criminal defense attorney, and I do court appointments for kids and families. And I'm running for judge because I care about you, your kids, and your families, and doing the right thing. And that's what we need to get back to. I understand when you have a kid that's before you, I call my clients my kids. I fight for them so they don't have criminal records. A lot of kids out there don't have a chance to begin with. And you give them a criminal record, they really don't have a chance. And when there's families involved, I know how it affects the families. I represent clients in criminal defense, and I understand if you have a drug problem, you need drug treatment. I understand if you go to jail, it affects your families, it affects your jobs, it affects your livelihoods. I'm in court every day fighting for my clients. I've been an attorney for 18 years and in the criminal justice system for 22 years. And this is why I'm running for judge. We need people that care and have compassion so that you understand when someone's before you if they need help. There's a difference between somebody that's a danger to the community and a difference when somebody needs help and they're a danger to themselves. I understand that from all the work that I do and all the advocacy I do every day. And helping kids is really my heart to give them a future. So that's some of the things that we can do to make the system better. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? My name is Sherman Toppin. This is my 20th year practicing law. I want to talk to you about what this harm is, what this healing that is needed, and what I know about it. It is distrust and it is fear. When black and brown men and women come before the court, they are afraid. They are scared and they are distrustful of what is going on from the police officers to the prosecution to the bench. That is when, what do I know about this? When I was in college, me and my buddies were stopped. I was racially profiled. We were put on the side of the road, ordered out of the car, 5 police cars, two officers per car, so that's 10 officers. We're on our knees, hands behind our back, and the drug dogs are smelling us, and they're asked us the question, one of my buddies asked, why were we stopped? And they told us, you guys fit the drug courier profile. We were wearing college t-shirts. I, by the way, was going to the University of Virginia. They're playing tonight. I know something about the fear of being on my knees that night, and that fear has driven me in the practice of law to this day. What I know what we have to do as judges, should I be lucky enough and blessed enough to be elevated to the bench, is to spend not as much time on the bench as I am in front of people. Judges should get off at 3 o'clock and go into the communities, talk to kids in schools, talk to people, so that it breaks down the fear that has developed over the years with the bench. And judges have to have a fortitude to look to their colleagues on the bench, some of which they may know are doing things that they don't think are correct, and talk in those courtrooms. Because nobody else can talk to judges but judges. I will be one of those judges. So, Sherman Toppin is my name. There's no stopping Sherman Toppin. May 21st.
All right. Give it up for the candidates. We'll be back. Don't worry, we didn't forget you. We're going to go back into some yes or no questions, and then we'll be back for some more open-ended. So yes, get your cards ready, get your yes no's ready, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the next speaker. But again, I'm inviting the crowd to think critically about some of these responses. Think critically about what these people are saying. And also think about your own feelings. How many of you have been in front of a judge before? There should be some more hands than that. How many of y'all been in front of a judge before? Okay, so you know the fear of sitting in front of someone who has the ability to sentence you or to let you go, right? So think about that. You're judging them today. You're judging them by what they say, what they do, because isn't that how you're judged, right? If you do something kooky, if you do some weird thing, couldn't you be judged for that? Yeah. right? So let's just keep that in mind as we're getting ready for this next segment. So we're going into this yes/no part. And so here's where it gets a little bit sticky. So I hope y'all on y'all P's and Q's, right? So we're gonna bring up Carnell Bates from the Center for Carceral Communities. And they're gonna talk a little bit about probation. Give it up, give it up, give it up.
Hello, my name is Carnell Bates. I'm 29 years old, and I've been on probation since I was 18 in 2014. I had a brief period where I was off probation in 2011 for like 2 years, and then I was back on probation in the beginning of 2014. So this year will be, I'll be turning 30. I've successfully co-parented my son. I have a full-time job. I made a lot of positive changes in my life, none of which I attribute to being on probation. So, my experience on probation has been the opposite of what they claim their mission to be. The Adult Parole Probation Department claims to afford offenders the opportunity to become productive, law-abiding citizens. In all my time on probation, I've never been able to know all the rules I'm supposed to follow on probation. All 4 of the probation officers I've worked with, like regularly, like I've had a probation officer as my probation officer on my case, but times where you don't show up to your appointment at the right time, or times where your probation officer has to work the field, you have to see a different probation officer that doesn't know your case, a probation officer that has a job and a protocol with their job, so not knowing your situation, as sensitive as it may be, they have power to take your freedom for a P-test, take your freedom for absconding, whether you had to go to work or whether you're working on getting a legal medicinal marijuana card because it's legal in Pennsylvania. This phone just cut off, it's not mine, but I don't need this. It's vast inconsistencies in between the probation officers that you go in to see, and it puts you in a state of fear, which I don't react well under fear. And it could turn something as small as a grain of sand to a glass masterpiece. You know what I mean? You could not see your probation officer for a day, or, you know, and that could perpetuate to not seeing your probation officer for a week, and that might land you in jail for absconding, whatever the case may be. And it could be a case that your probation officer may understand knowing your case, but another probation officer has no clue. And they're looking at you like, you know, I have to take in consideration what the book says. So if you don't show up and you've been absconding, you have to go to jail. Whether you were in the hospital, whether you're at work, whatever the case is, these vast inconsistencies just leave the people in a state of, you know, I'm losing time. Thank you. I'm having all these technical difficulties. There's no electric in my crib right now, so like all my batteries are dying. I got 60 seconds. So when you have a PO, when you have a PO filing and you're not aware of the rules you're supposed to play by, for example, my probation officer, luckily, is the one who recommended, like, you keep coming in here and your only issue is this marijuana. That's your only issue. And I'm like, dude, I get 29 days and you give me a P-test, it's going to show up there. You know, all the priorities that I have right now, like, you know, as long as I'm focused on achieving my goals, I don't focus on, you know, it's a burden to me. You know, I got all sorts of health issues that I have to address myself, or with the help of the colleagues around me that I'm going to understand that, you know, they might not understand. So my question to you is, do you believe that probation is, in fact, a way to open people's minds to the importance of being a positive citizen in this system. After coming from an environment that glorifies, you know, criminalism. Okay. All right. So do you think that? Okay. How? What I really want to know is honestly how. Yes or no? All right. Do you think that this system serves its purpose to people?
Get a good look at those answers? Because one of the things is that, so I ended up serving time because they revoked my probation. On my first time, my first case, my first felony, they literally, like 2 months before I was due to be off of probation, they literally revoked my probation. I was getting my master's degree. I had like a 3.8 GPA. I bought into all the systems of the American dream, right? So I'm gonna share a little piece with y'all that to me is like the biggest problem of all of our issues, and that's around trauma. HB 1014, just in case I didn't know what I was talking about. But HB 1014 is a piece of legislation that's a part of the Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act. And what it does is that it's making sure that folks are trained in trauma-informed care. One of the things that happens with our communities is that people negate our very human experience of being traumatized. Slavery is traumatizing. Having police on every corner in our communities is traumatizing. Being pulled over for minor traffic violations and going to jail for years is traumatizing. Sitting in front of a judge that yells and screams at you is traumatizing. Furthermore, you become incarcerated. That's even more traumatizing than anything else that we're facing in society. You feel me? So we want to make sure that we are humanizing these people who come into the courtrooms. And going back, let's go back to that trauma. Take a picture, it lasts longer. Looking in the mirror at reflections of my mama with traces of a trauma, her karma, my daily drama, so praying my daily armor. But I resonate in yellow like a soul chakra. Reggae and hip hop to get my soul proper. I pen in the elements, lips kiss, letters sent upstate, visiting day can't touch your face, cell block doors try to shut your fate, but it's kites in the wind. I fend for myself now, but I'm like in the wind. Before I'm judged by 12, I was judged by him or her. So I sold words in the hem of my long jeans. Put on your long sleeve, long walk, journey beside me. I'm shaking off the pain and the worries inside me. Waiting for the message from the spirits is signs to deliver like right here it is. We spirited, we gifted, we purpose. Check the chapters and the verses. Black women resurface the prophets of your dreams and your prophecies. With ebony tone, melanated quite properly. Duality, plurality, gender pronouns make them all ears like basset hounds. I articulated pronouns, deep and profound. Words of Asada, birds of a feather, free Sunny Otter, free Mumia, Janet and Janine. Yeah, that's it. That's all I All right, we're gonna bring up the next person. And so I want y'all to put y'all hands together for Project Safe. Gus, you ready? All right, give it up for Gus.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry to go from the poetic to the prosaic. My name is Gus Grant, and I'm here representing Project Safe. We do harm reduction with sex workers and drug users, mostly in Kensington. And it's a community that's been really strongly hit by the overdose crisis. Also by every single issue that's been brought up here today so far. And there are a bunch of different issues that come together to cause it, not all of which can address. So one thing that people have marked is that when the mayor made his plan to address the overdose epidemic, it's resting very strongly on the idea of connecting people with treatment. And one of the main sort of purchasers of treatment is the FJD. So what I would like to ask folks is, do you believe it's more important to test for metabolites of cannabis and refer people to abstinence-based cannabis treatment than it is to refer them to evidence-based opioid and stimulant treatment? Is it more important to test people for metabolites of cannabis and refer people to abstinence-based cannabis treatment than to refer them to evidence-based opioid and stimulant treatment? Thank you.
I want to bring up something about this opioid crisis, because I know that the Black and brown communities have been suffering from heroin and crack addiction for a long time, and there were no diversionary programs, there were no rehabilitative, there were people speaking out about these issues that were going on in our communities. I just want to put that out there. Now all of a sudden it's a big crisis. I'm not saying that people don't need help, not saying that the opioid epidemic isn't ravishing communities, but we also want to make sure that the same diversionary programs that's being provided for opioid abusers is also being provided in the Black and brown communities for crack addicts, for alcoholics, for all of that. We want to make sure that that's going across the board. Yeah. Again, watch these folks. Watch. So I'm gonna bring the next person up. Brother William Bentley from Yass is gonna talk a little bit about young folks in the system.
How's everybody doing today? My name is William Bentley. I'm a youth organizer with the Youth Art Self-Empowerment Project. And I'm gonna start with this. As I look at the Judge Kennedy's names here today, it reminds me of another list. Ray Ray, Enrique, Quadeja, Taman, Nana, Taji, and Bria, Mir, Maya, Khadija, Tamia, Aisha, and Hassan. These are all my siblings, believe it or not. 13 siblings, including myself, for sure is a lot, isn't it? People used to think sitcom families like the Brady Bunch and Family Matters were huge families until y'all met mine. Now, because of some poor decisions at the age of 14, I was placed in adult jail to be prosecuted in the adult system. When I was at my bail hearing, my bail was set at $250,000. That's when I realized this was never a bail, it was just a detention order. Bails are supposed to be set at an amount so someone can pay, so the courts know that they will show up. Set up $250,000 on a 14-year-old kid with 13 siblings isn't helping nothing. Being in adult prisons at such a young age confuses you, for a lack of words. It makes you think you are less of a human being. When you're labeled a menace to society, you get the mindset that you got the mindset that it's like, forget the world, forget anybody that wasn't here with you. It's pretty hard once you get released to get out of that mindset. I lost contact with all 13 of my siblings. I came home and they didn't know me. They didn't know who I was. Yes, we all had the same parents, but that was it. You know what it's like to have 13 siblings and not have a connection with none of them? Because you were placed in adult jail when you were a kid? Jails, and kids. Let me say that one more time. Jails, and kids. That should never be in the same sentence. You ever ate a peanut butter and a mayonnaise sandwich? Right? No, you ain't eaten nothing like that before, right? How about a cheese whiz and a tuna roll? Y'all had something like that before? Yeah, that's disgusting. Yeah. I said kids and jails just don't go together. You won't sell me an adult beverage at the age of 14, but you will place me in an adult jail? 14, but you will place me in adult jail.
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish by saying this. Silly rabbits, jails are not for kids. Do you believe children under 18 should ever be prosecuted as adults? Thank you all for coming here tonight.
I'm going to say what I said in the People's Platform. Don't blame. Look at the answers. And whatever you do, look at those that look at other people's answers so that they can stick up the same answer.
Thank you, Ms. Dee, because I seen a couple of questionable answers, but you know, we ain't gonna talk about that. Everybody get their day, right? Yeah, give it up for William one more time, man. This is what we're doing to our babies, systematically disenfranchising them. You talking about at 14, you got a felony, so what? I can't vote when I turn 18? Or what? I can't get housing? I can't get a Pell Grant? I can't go to college? I can't do nothing? Because of a decision that I made at 14? That sounds ridiculous, y'all. That sounds crazy. And it's definitely not the system that is fair, right? That we all say that we're here for. We're here for justice. But that's not what's happening. Because we stopped looking at kids as children. We're not looking at them as children. The fact that you can try a child as an adult means that the system is completely broken. And the fact that there's more outcry about this. Juveniles are being sent to life. We hold more juvenile lifers than any other state in this country. Come on, y'all. The next person I'm going to bring up is Jeremy Lowe from Lilac. Give it up.
On January 30th, coldest day of this past winter, 127 evictions were filed with our city's municipal court system. It's 127 families, 127 neighbors, and 127 friends who got notice that day that in a few weeks they would no longer have a home. A week ago, as it is every single week this year, the rolling 6-month total of evictions in Philadelphia crossed the 10,000 cases filed mark. Annualized, we expect that figure to exceed 22,000 evictions filed in Philadelphia this year. So the question is, do you believe that the municipal court currently ensures the tenants' rights are sufficiently protected and tenants sufficiently apprised of those rights during the trial and the pendency thereof? Yeah, I got you. Do you believe that the municipal court currently ensures the tenants' rights are sufficiently protected and tenants are sufficiently apprised of those rights during the pendency of their eviction proceedings filed against them? Thank you.
I invite folks to get your information from more than just the news and social media. If that's where you're framing your ideas about black and brown people, it's the wrong place to go. We need to humanize us and actually do the research about what's going on in our communities. How many grassroots organizations we got standing up for social justice issues. How many women's rights activists we got on the ground. How many folks are protesting against police brutality. We need to know the communities that you plan to serve. You can't be on the outskirts talking about you're judging fairly. You can't come in from out of town or on the outskirts of Philadelphia and judge fairly. That's not good enough information. The news and the media is not going to give you a picture of black and brown people, which is the predominance of this community here in Philadelphia. So again, make sure you're doing your research on the communities actually, and not just painting everybody with the same general stroke. All right? Also, on the issue of housing, that's again, if you are a felon, there's a lot of people who don't want to rent to you. There's a lot of people who don't, listen, I'm talking about for non-violent offenses, people have felonies, can't even get a home, can't even rent an apartment in the worst side of town. So, just keep that in mind. Moving on, we have Yohan Calvo Machado from ICE out of the courts. Give it up.
Buenas noches. I am a victim advocate working with immigrants who have been harmed by violent crime. I'm a victim advocate here in South Philly, who's working with the immigrant community who have been harmed by crimes. We're going to go off this because I'm very nervous right now. Since this administration has new rules or new way of so ICE has been part of it's been scaring the community, and with all these deportations that we have seen in the past, they created a strategy when they start showing up to courts. So this created that the court system of the court doesn't go to the where it's supposed to go, which is mean immigrants who have to go to the courtroom for several reasons. They are scared, and if they got to go to pay a bill, pay child support, for many reasons that they have to go to court, they are afraid. There is no equal justice for all of the immigrant victims or any immigrants who have to go to court. Many of them are undocumented. I forgot to mention that. So the question is, do you believe that the presence of ICE officers in or around the courthouse has no impact on access to justice for immigrant community? Yes, that's correct. Do you believe that the presence of ICE officers in or out of or around the courthouse has no impact on access to justice for immigrant community members? Thank you.
A lot of times we don't think of ourselves as immigrants. We don't think of ourselves as people who are not originally from this country. And we tend to criminalize folks who are coming here looking for a better life, or coming here to be here, just like the original folks who came from Europe were looking for. They were looking for a better life. They were looking to build a better life. That's the same thing that these people are coming here to do, to criminalize them after offering them jobs. Bush offered them a lot of jobs, and then now you want to close it down. That's unfair, it's unjust, and we're going to keep fighting the system. And so we're going to get into this open-ended part again, where we'll be asking this side of the candidates to answer. Again, it's 2 minutes. And I am going to allow you to hold it, but I will take it at the 2-minute mark when Ms. Dee let me know. All right? Oh, right. same question that's been up here for the last 20 minutes. What can the courts do to heal harms caused to our communities by the criminal justice system?
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Palmer. I County Municipal Court. I practice as an assistant district attorney for 6 years, and for the last 19 years, I've been doing criminal defense work in court every day. When you come to sentencing, although most of the mandatory guidelines have been ruled unconstitutional, judges still follow guidelines. What happens when you follow guidelines? It treats everyone the same. So what happens is, I'll just make up a number. Judge gives them 3 to 6, sheriff's come out, kid goes into the wall, lady goes into the wall, and he gets warehoused for 3 to 6 years. I think what we have to do as part of healing is individualize each sentence. See what the needs are. There needs to be more coherent work between the probation department and the courts. If the kid reads at a 3rd grade level, let's work on a GED. If the kid's if he's handy with his hands, get him some vocational training. I do some work with the building trades, and they're doing wonderful things with re-entry now. So if the kid wants to be a plumber, we'll teach him plumbing. Wants to be an electrician, whatever he wants to be. Because you have to keep it going. You have to give someone a shot. Some of these kids just never had a shot at it. If you show a little interest, and say, hey, listen, this is how you repair a sink. They feel worthy and they want to do things. And I also think, and a couple of other candidates, the judges' schedules aren't really that grueling. I mean, I work a lot of hours in private practice. Bring them back for status states. Just don't let them, you can't depend on the probation department, you know that doesn't work. So bring them back in. How you making out? Are you having problems? What do you do? What can we do to help you? And I think if you do that, and what they'll do is they'll teach their kids, and it'll go out to the community, and I think we'll have, we won't have a revolving door, we won't have warehouses, in the state correctional institution. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Josh Roberts, I'm running for Court of Common Pleas. One of my colleagues raised the point before, who listens to judges but other judges? You know who else listens to judges? Legislators. Judges can use their experience, their collective experience, to impact legislation. And one of the things, I don't know how many people are familiar with this, if you seek an expungement of something that you did a long time ago, it can take up to 3 years. It can take up to 3 years for that process to work itself through. And what we need to do as judges is advocate for better programs, for a quicker expungement process, and we need to advocate for legislation like we're seeing now, where if you have a misdemeanor that is as an older misdemeanor, it's automatically expunged, because that allows people to re-enter into society, lets them vote, lets them get that criminal conviction that might have been years ago, the plea agreement from years ago, off their record. That's really what judges need to do. Because as a judge, I got the Superior Court, I got the Supreme Court above me. I'm limited in what I can do in the courtroom, but what I can do is use that experience and advocate for more sensible programs, the expungement, the legislation that automatically expunges crimes, misdemeanors, and whatnot that are of the older variety. So thank you very much. Josh Roberts.
Hi, I'm Craig Levin. The way we're going to heal our communities, it starts with the district attorney. The district attorney is the gateway to the criminal process. And we have a district attorney in our city who's aggressively progressive. He has policies in place that are meant to heal the communities. So it starts right there with the district attorney. Just last week, he talked about eliminating those long-tail probations. And he's really trying to change a system that's been in place for a very long time. And when you want to change something in this city or this country that's aggressive and progressive, it takes a lot. It's not easy, but that's the start. But from a judge's perspective, you just got to care. You know, when you get up there on the bench, you can't just look at somebody who comes before you and say, what's wrong with this guy, and just throw him in jail. You have to care. You have to take the time and say, where did this person come from? What led him down this path to where he is? And like Dave was saying, you got a status. You got to bring them back. You got to show an interest in them. You got to show that somebody cares about them. And when you care about people, they respond. It's very important for a judge to take that extra effort, to have that mindset, to take the time. You look at the bail, the cash bail. So in New Jersey, they eliminated the cash bail, and they did a study. And they showed that people showed up for court at about the same rate as they did when there was cash bail. So what happens is you don't have a young lady like this who has to go to jail, has to be taken away from her children. You heard her hurt. You heard her anguish. That's where the system needs to be changed, and that's what needs to be done by our communities.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Teresa Brunson, and I'm running for a judge in municipal court, and I've also served as an assistant district attorney here in Philadelphia for a decade, but I served most of my time in the family violence and sexual assault unit. I believe that the court system in Philadelphia today could heal itself by realizing the fact that the court system, as it exists, is not diverse enough. It does not reflect the citizenry of Philadelphia. You have judges, you have court staff, you have DAs, you have PDs who are all overwhelmingly of one race as opposed to the race of most of the people who are coming into the court system. And I think that in and of itself is a huge problem when you have an overwhelming number of people coming into the court system of one race and all they see is no one that looks like them. So they automatically are going to feel like there's no compassion, there's no caring, and they're not going to really be heard. So I think that we've had enough time in this city, we have enough citizens of all different races to make sure that the court system looks like the people who are coming into court and using the court system.
Pardon me, I don't want to hit her with the wire here. We heard some compelling stories tonight, by the way. People in jail for being picked up in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing something while they're a child. What are the children doing in court as being tried as adults, looked at as adults? Being incarcerated with adults is ridiculous. Judges, ladies and gentlemen, I think can make a difference. Two years ago, I had a client who had bail, money put up for a drunk driving charge. If you can figure that out, he did not hit anybody. He was pulled over for not using a turn signal. I went in front of a judge and had to ask the judge to give him his money back. The judge looked at me like I was crazy. But the judge signed an order giving him his money back. A few years back, I had a client about 15 years ago standing waiting for a bus. He did it every day, 5 days a week. Somebody said, that's the guy that robbed the senior citizen around the corner. He was picked up, put in jail, was not let out, had $25,000 bail. Judge in preliminary court raised it to $100,000. He didn't do it. He waited every day for the bus at the same spot. Ladies and gentlemen, judges have guidelines. They're afraid to do anything with bail. They're afraid to do anything with the guidelines for sentencing. They can make a difference here. And again, what are children doing in adult court and incarceration? Courts have to get to it. It has to get in front of them, and decisions have to be made. And sometimes they can't. They got to break from past precedents. Thank you. John Marshall, candidate for Common Pleas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kateria McCabe, candidate for Judge Court of Common Pleas. I've been practicing law almost 30 years, 28 to be exact. I've been in private practice, worked for the City of Philadelphia, and currently I'm the Director of Veterans, Kinship Care, and Tenant Rights at a nonprofit organization. How can we heal the courts? Simple. Thinking outside of the box. Thinking outside of the jury box. Thinking outside of the bench. We want to look at that as a box. We have diversionary programs and other systems that we can use that unilaterally. We have veterans courts. We have diversionary programs so that we can prevent mortgage foreclosure so that people don't lose their homes. We have to try to be creative so that we're not just locking people up and throwing away the key. We have to look at people that we label as defendants as people, as human beings, holistically treating our citizenry. Easy for me to say, right? And then also, just briefly, I know I don't have much time, but how many of you grown when you get a jury summons. Remember the phrase, don't boo, vote, don't groan, go, because you can be part of that system. How often do you hear of a crazy verdict and you say to yourself, how did they come to that conclusion? We have to be part of the system. We have to participate so that we can change the course of time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Palmer, and I'm running for Court of Common Pleas. I've spent the past 20 years of my career using the law to make social justice reform, and I've been working on LGBT civil rights advancement. And I see the law as a tool in our courts as a tool to right the wrongs in our society. And what we need to do to heal the harms of our criminal justice system is, number one, we need to stop perpetrating the harms of our criminal justice system. And that means we need to look to some of the appalling statistics that we have in our city and figure out how we can reverse those by electing people at all levels of government who really see the connections and the linkages between social justice reform. Philadelphia has one of the highest rates of poverty of any major city in the country. Philadelphia has the highest rate of people under, twice the national average of people under supervision in the country for probation and parole. Philadelphia has the highest rate of removing a child from a parent and placing them in foster care of any major city in the country. These things are all connected. And this is a way, that the way to right the wrongs and the harms is to elect people who understand that the law comes from social justice. And these things are connected. And we can only solve the problem by understanding the connections between all these things and working at every level of government, the courts, the executive branch, and our legislative branch, to really look to how we can solve these systemically, because we have to get to the root of the problem, and at the base of it all is poverty. People lose their jobs when they can't make bail. People lose their children when they can't make bail, and people are evicted when they can't make bail. And these are the things we need to look to correct. Tiffany Palmer.
I have terrible balance, so if I fall over, I just ask that it be edited out of that video. I'm Anthony Kyriakakis, and I'm running for Court of Common Pleas. I think the first step in answering that question is to recognize that the problems in our criminal justice system are systemic. We have systemic problems. We incarcerate more people in our country than anywhere else in the world, 700 per 100,000. Now, most countries in Europe, for example, incarcerate around 100, sometimes fewer than 100 per 100,000. Just to give you a sense of the scale of the disparity. Speaking of disparities, we incarcerate black men nationally at a rate that's 5 times higher than white men. And in Pennsylvania, it's 8 times higher. That's appalling. We have to stand up and say, what's wrong with our system? How is this happening? And I think when you're looking at what a judicial candidate might do as a judge, you should look at what they've been doing. So I've been a volunteer attorney for President Obama's Clemency Project, working to identify nonviolent offenders for early release. I've taught 9 semester-long courses at Temple Law and Penn Law School on sentencing and some of these problems in the criminal justice system, including the problem of mass incarceration and the fact that there are disparities in treatment at sentencing across race, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and gender identity. I assign my students to read a book called The Collapse of American Criminal Justice, which traces some of the root causes of these problems, because I think young law students who are going to be lawyers need to be aware of these dynamics in order to address them. And this past December, I testified in front of the Pennsylvania Sentencing Commission against the implementation of a proposed risk assessment tool that would have... We cannot use a computer algorithm and feed it data from a racially biased system and then expect the output to give us a fair assessment of what's going on. My time's up. Everyone should be treated as an individual. Anthony Kyriakakis, thank you.
My name is Terry Booker. I'm running for judge for the Court of Common Pleas. So Carnell mentioned that he gave us a mission statement of what the probation unit, what their mission is to make them more productive citizens. My answer was no, I don't believe that's what they're doing. Mr. Bobby asked, is the penal system doing what they're supposed to be doing? And I answered yes. And the reason I answered yes is because the point of this system is to punish. We are not rehabilitating, we are not doing any of that. The point is to punish. So they're doing exactly what they want to do. And that, in turn, turns to the trauma that was talked about. So as we talk about healing, we need to heal the hurts from the trauma that we face from being punished for things that should be decriminalized in the first place. So when we think about mental health, the resources and things like that need to be in place, the court can provide services like that and give them resources, give people resources when they come out of prison being traumatized over and over again. They can get the resources they need in order to be productive citizens, not necessarily be on probation, which is not doing just that. My name is Terry Booker. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lori Dow, running for Common Pleas Court. I take this question very literally. How do we heal the harms of the criminal justice system? First of all, I don't think you can heal the harms of the criminal justice system. Everyone here who spoke tonight talked about the harms that happened to them because they were involved in the criminal justice system. Separation from their families, loss of their jobs, loss of their homes. You don't get that back. Maybe you get somewhere to where you once were, but you don't repair the harm that happened. You don't repair the harm that happened when you sat in jail without a trial because you couldn't meet the bail. I heard a statistic the other day that 80% of women incarcerated, I think it was in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, are incarcerated pre-trial. How do you have that happen? So for me, when you start talking about the criminal justice, it starts at age 0 and it goes forward. The pipeline of foster care to criminalization. You stop the removals. You start looking at what's the safety for the child and not removing them. What's the impact on the community? And as it goes forward, schools, the disparate treatment of African American children of color in the school system and how they're punished, and how that impacts them and impacts the dropout rate, and that increases the incarceration. Taking a look at alternatives to punishment that way, not removing children from their homes and their families because of truancy, which just leads directly statistically to incarceration, increased incarceration. How do you look at that and reduce bails and have bail do what it's supposed to do, which is ensure people come back for court, not punish them for a crime they haven't even had a trial for or been convicted of yet. And then also looking at probation and plea agreements, and again, thinking about public safety. Are we achieving what we want to achieve with these deals? And that's what I would work on. Again, Lori Dow, running for Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you so much. My name is James Brodnelli. I'm running for Court of Common Pleas. I do mainly homicide defense in my practice, and over 26 years, the real tragedy that I see in the justice system is the failure to properly diagnose and treat mental health issues. Far, far too many of my homicide clients have had 6, 7 contacts with the justice system. No one ever realizes that they're bipolar or have schizophrenia until they kill somebody. And this actually starts even way before they enter the justice system. Our schools do an equally poor job. They're very, very poor at diagnosing those issues. They're very, very good at suspending people and expelling people without treating those issues. So you end up with these young men that are unable to get a proper education, which is really a key to being able to get ahead in our life now. And as a result, they end up in the system. And again, it doesn't diagnose their issues until things get violent, and then we lock them up and throw the key away. That's not justice. What I would like to do, if I can become a judge, is to begin to order much more intensive psychiatric evaluations of lower level offenders, particularly gun offenders. If we can do that without through a diversion program that doesn't saddle them with a felony conviction that has all those ramifications down the road. But if you do that, you can potentially save the lives of those young men and the lives of potential victims. And that's something that I would really like to focus on. The other thing is the right to counsel. We talked about landlord-tenant. It's been shown that if you have a lawyer and landlord-tenant, you're 78% less likely to get evicted. In the last 3 years, I've been the bar's representative of the Counsel Fee Working Group, trying to improve the rates paid for indigent defense here in Philadelphia. When we started, they were lower than Tupelo, Mississippi. That's not fair. You can't try to take someone's freedom without giving them their constitutional guarantee to a good lawyer. And that's something I will continue to work for if I'm on the bench. Thank you so much.
All right, give it up for your candidates. Give it up. All right, I'm gonna close y'all out with this. I just want to make sure that we're clear on next steps in this process. So I'm close y'all out with this little piece just to make sure as you're on your way out. Don't forget to follow me, ladies and gentlemen, on IG at BLAK_RAPP, shameless plug. You know what I'm saying? BLAK_RAPP. IG, follow me. I change my views in the presence of new facts. Spitting revolution, now rise and call it new black. Salute to the red, green, and black. I thought y'all knew that. One hood, one soul, one team, I and I. Muslims that reference the roster, it's all intertwined. You see, I'm God body, call my soul divine. My hair naughty, call it nappy twines. Intelligent rhymes, call them smart lines. Much like your smartphone, but close to the home like your landline. I'm in the war zone, landmine, sun's going, never coming home. We practice the status quo. They get astonished when we reach us what they sow. Holy experience can mother the soul. Holy experience can mother the soul. Y'all better let them know. Still waters run deep. Don't be misguided. And when you're quiet, you can hear the loud silence. Now maybe if you're clever, you can mastermind it. But looking for forever, this is how you find it. I tell them freedom's on the tip of my tongue, the end of my gun, I'm hearing it all over again. Planting seeds of truth all over this land. Hoping that you would come forth and take this torch and run on, my friend. You see, it's power in numbers making us strong, my friend. I could only do my part in my circumference and pray and be humbled by a wise decision, so intermissions in my mind play John Coltrane as I wait. But now, sometimes I don't see so straight, or hear so good, or even feel so great. So sentimental moves takes my pain and lets it hover in the mist as it fades into funky blue notes and trumpet snares, trumpet players blasting madness into percussions. I said all this to say that we can make something out of nothing. We could take your dreams and mine and merge them into reality, burst them into flames like shooting stars in the galaxy. We could make ourselves whole again. We could bring our souls home again. Just you take my hand and let us lead ourselves out of the darkness of this oppression. No more step infection, just chin checking. No asking questions, just insurrections. Still waters run deep. Don't be misguided. And when you're quiet, you can hear the loud silence. Now maybe if you're clever, you can mastermind it. But looking for forever, this is how you find it. Thank y'all. Just want to make sure that the next steps is you read our platform and questionnaire responses. The links are on the program. Also, make sure you get out to vote May 21st. 30 people submitted responses and asked the candidates to hold up yes or no for... Oh, sorry. If y'all can hold up your yes or no if you submitted a response to the questionnaire. All right, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And I want to give an opportunity for Comrade Bobby Harris to come up and ask just one question, if that's okay. Y'all mind? Do y'all mind? No. Oh, good. All right. He was gonna come up anyway, though.
I wasn't gonna leave unless I asked this one question. This is for all of you that's looking to run for judge. It's very deep, and I want to elaborate on it. In the city of Philadelphia, there's something in the criminal justice system that's called the white sheet or the white files. Anytime before 1998, the district attorney's office intentionally suppressed the white sheets in defendants' cases for homicides. And in every last one of them cases, those files are sealed, and individuals that's incarcerated are unavailable to them, whether they have the funds to duplicate the copies of them. This became public in 1998 in a case called Commonwealth versus Ronaldo. And it was revealed actually through a slip of the tongue from the district attorney's office. And my question to you, do you believe that defendants prior to 1998 whose cases or materials or exculpatory evidence should be made available to defendants to obtain? Thank you. There's a follow-up. Would you publicly go public and express your opinion on revealing that evidence to be made available to defendants? Third question, and I'm done. Would you do it tonight on social media?
Thank y'all very much. Get home safe.